3 unrelated. Obviously, it's an issue that ASCSU has continued to make a priority year after year. I feel the approach has been incorrect, obviously, because it's yielded no results. I have personally gone and talked to City Council during public discussion times, and I've presented my case when I've been allowed to on behalf of the students for 3 unrelated, because 88% of students last time we sent out a student voice survey disapproved of the city ordinance, obviously, because, you know, 3 people paying for a 5-bedroom house is not very healthy for a student's financial situation. And so the approach has been previously to go into City Council, like I have done a couple times this year, and say, it's bad for students, so we need to get rid of this. But this City Council is not a very student-sympathetic City Council, and we'll see if there's any type of change coming in this upcoming election, you know, as of next Tuesday. However, if there isn't a change, regardless, I feel that there's a need for a new approach. And Melisa and I want to build community relationships with other interest groups around the city of Fort Collins who also disagree with this city ordinance. There's leadership in the Republican Party, there's leadership in the Democratic Party, as well as realtor associations that have all vocally opposed this ordinance. What we want to do is there's a formal review coming up in October for the first time in 2 years. Coincidentally, they scheduled this around academic years, so that kind of tells you that obviously students are being considered in this, because if they schedule their review around academic years, then obviously, you know, student concerns are they realize that it affects students, but they're not really listening to student needs. And so we want to approach it with this community coalition that we would hopefully start building as soon as we take office, just reaching out to these interest groups around Fort Collins and these different community organizations to come at this review as a united front. And, you know, maybe with that, if we can present it as it's something that's bad for the city of Fort Collins and not just the campus community, then I feel that there's a lot bigger chance that we'll be able to reach some sort of compromise. Even zoning a house, a 5-bedroom house, as saying, well, no more than 5 people can live there. That's perfectly realistic for 2009 Fort Collins, as opposed to 1960s Fort Collins when this came to be. Well, okay, so depending on the elections that happen, there's a lot of opponents to the over-occupancy ordinance running. And it's a pretty competitive race right now. Kelly Olson is actually having to play a lot of defense, and he's been one of the strongest supporters of the over-occupancy ordinance. I've been building relationships with all of these candidates as well as the current city council members. You know, like Kelly and I know each other now, and so that's one person who would be kind of my opponent in this fight against 3 unrelated. But then also Andrew Boucher is someone who I've met, and he's one of the people that's going into this formal review, and if he is elected, he will be fighting against the over-occupancy ordinance. And as specifically to what we would do, the main idea right now is just to build it's a lot of different systems, like a lot of things we have to do are changing our messaging, you know? And so, like I'm saying, right now our messaging is the students are complaining. That's what the city council thinks. The students are complaining, and that has not been very effective in the past few years. We have had great community affairs department directors and assistant directors that have been fighting for this, but the fact is our message always comes down to the same thing, that we're only fighting against the over-occupancy ordinance, and we're only saying that it's a student problem. I think that we really need to build the case that it's a community problem and not a student problem. And then go into it saying that, like I said, it's a Fort Collins issue and not a student issue. Because if the students vote, then City Council will start listening to us, because right now they see us as a transient population. I don't like that concept, because CSU's been here since 1870. That's not very transient to me. So students as a whole have been here that long. You and I, we will leave, right? But the students will always be here. And so the fact that they feel like we're just coming and going, so they really don't need to listen to what we have to say, isn't a very effective weapon in their arsenal, in my opinion. If we could just engage the community on a better level, and if even a small number of students were trying to do as much as possible on this, then I feel that City Council would take a second look at the student body. Because right now it's just a bunch of drunk students saying they want to live 5 people to a house.